Shit, let me take these bad boys off. I don't think I need them anymore. Yes, the stream is going to be completely fucking shitty. I'm sorry. I don't have the processing power at home to like maintain a very strong stream, so you're gonna be hearing that from me a lot. A lot. Gotta freestyle this motherfucker again. I ain't gonna lie to you. I tried to set some time away today for preparing notes and how I'm gonna structure this show, but didn't work out in my favor, unfortunately. All right, so I'm gonna just let this shit record for a little bit. Let me get my slate out the way. Yeah, we professional out here, bitch. All right, so yeah, let me make sure that. Yeah, sorry to those who have earphones in. Just gotta make sure that this audio doesn't fuck up in post production. You know, I used to love the idea of being like a one-man band. Like, oh, bro, I could do all that shit on my own. And then I started doing all that shit on my own. That shit's not that fun. Working with the team versus not having a team, you just see the lack in quality. And as you can see, there's a huge lack in quality in this fucking live stream. This shit looks, you probably think like, damn, do I have to make my settings better? Nah, bro, this shit's baked into the footage. Sorry, this is really on my end though. But yeah, so today I'm basically just going to be talking about my original intentions with content creation, my current intentions and my current likes and things that I'm into. And then I'm going to be going into the 5 steps of the neurocycle. So that's something that I just learned today. Be the viewer, be the audience, create something that you want to see as a fan. So I feel like that's important. That's from Rick Rubin. Not in those exact words, but that's from Rick Rubin. Kyrie Irving went to the Mavericks. As a Laker fan, I'm kind of heartbroken about that. But as like a fan of hoops, I'm kind of like, doesn't really make the most sense. But you never know, right? Because it kind of reminds me of like Luka and Kyrie reminds me of James Harden and Kyrie. 2 dominant scorers, ball handlers. Is it going to work? If it doesn't, like, if KD and Kyrie couldn't work, although there was injuries and significant amount of games not being played, like, how do we know that same thing's not going to happen in Dallas? But shout out to the fucking Dallas Mavericks. I hope they go far. Luka and Kyrie on 2K, that's a scary fucking team. But like KD and Kyrie were probably a little bit more scarier. That's up for debate though. I'm not here to discuss that. But that is pretty fucking crazy how that happened. And then we have, I'm probably going to talk about family. I'm probably not going to touch that subject too much, but that is definitely something that I have on my mind today. I tried to reflect on the things that I'm currently thinking about. Kind of like a dump, unfortunately, but I realized, so I guess and then we're going to talk about family and friends and then gratitude. I'm going to try my best to end each podcast off with a bit of gratitude and try to leave it off in a good feeling, because lately I've just been brain dumping a bunch of thoughts onto the internet, unfortunately. Let me bring this down a little bit. This shit's like right there. I really wish I had a better processor. Because if I had a better processor, my streams would be coming out silky smooth, and then I'd be able to make... Because you may not know it. Honest to God, I don't know if it's even applied, but there's a LUT that's baked into this recording right now. So there's a bit of a filter on there to make this video come out a little bit better. I just don't know how noticeable it is. And I'm not going to get it to check because that's a lot of work. But I guess that's something cool that I learned. That's one thing about being like a one-man band. You get to learn a lot of different software, like producers and live streamers are probably going to stay on the OBS side, and then the post-production video editing team is likely going to stay on like the Premiere Pro side. I'm kind of using both of those applications. So I guess I can start off by talking about my original intentions. When I first started making content, it was in 2018, and I wanted to talk into a fucking camera. And then I always had the vision in my head that I'm going to have some type of DSLR camera that can shoot at least 4K. Some nice lighting, a really good microphone, and a MacBook. Or a Mac. It doesn't matter what type of Mac it is, as long as there's an Apple logo on that bitch somewhere and it's new. And it's brand new, not used. I said like that's where I wanted to be. So at the time, the intentions then was just to buy better equipment so people can take me more seriously. That's where I realized that I wish I can go back in time and kind of shift my intentions, but nonetheless, that's what I focused on. I thought that quality was going to be the thing, the quality of the actual like files and the format, like, having 1080p 4K quality on YouTube is what I was aiming for, and the audio had to be crisp. My audio is good, so like that's one thing I'm grateful for. I definitely have a lot more equipment than I did in 2018. There's a huge difference in 2018 and 2023. I have better equipment, but I'm like still in that beginner stage because I wasn't focused on the right things. I wasn't focused on creating entertaining content, creating good segments, not really even systematizing, but creating a system so that it was more, what's the word? I was able to create content more efficiently, and this not the same way every single time, but repeat these same steps to get a similar result every time. And I guess that's kind of like doing the same shit, but I guess overall what I'm trying to say there is I was focused on getting hardware and equipment. I was focused on that type of quality when I should have been focusing on the quality of my actual content, the words that I was saying, the topics that I was talking about, and the people that I was talking to. I had all that shit backwards. I had no clue about it. I didn't really care too much to focus on it, truth be told. So I just thought that I had to make it. I was so stuck in that do it now, do it now, do it now. Don't think about it, just do it. Don't think about it, just do it. So there really was no clear intention on what type of content I wanted to create. All I knew is that I wanted to talk about deep shit on a camera, and I wanted to be able to do that not even nonchalantly. I don't think that's the right word because that sounds kind of lazy, but I guess I wanted to be able to do that. I want to say natively, easily, there's a better word for it. I wanted to be able to do that comfortably, be able to have these conversations with more people. Like I wanted to be able to have guests on my podcast that can talk about whatever the fuck they wanted to talk about. This is in 2018. I just didn't really know that yet. So I forced myself to start talking about sports. There's a huge learning curve there. I wouldn't even say it was a big failure because it was more of a learning curve. Yeah, I'm that type of motherfucker. Be like, oh, that wasn't a loss, dude. There was just another opportunity to learn. Yes, I am that type of corny dude because although I never really reached any type of audience, I was never into sports as much as I thought I was. My friends really loved it, and I had like good ideas and good takes every now and then. Let me get that focus back over here, please. I really hope that focused. I can't tell from here. Let me see. Let me turn on the glasses. I think we're fine. We should be fine. We got this right here. So I was more focused on trying to create content that I didn't really care to listen to. I wasn't watching First Take every day. I wasn't listening to no sportscasts. I wasn't really indulging in that type of content. In the WWE world, I kind of was. Not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I loved to watch like WWE return. So the WWE was what initially got me started in that sports talk. And then knowing football and knowing basketball, never playing, but always being a fan and like observing and watching from the sidelines, I thought I can cover those three topics. And then as time went on, I would try to make these podcasts and then realized how much I was forcing it. Like I would literally try to look at trending things every day. I had the idea for it. The mentality was definitely there. Like producer wise, I was there. It just never felt like my show. It always felt like somebody who actually loves sports deserves to be the host of this, and I just want to help them make their vision come true because I created a good name. So Timeout Talk, that's a good name. So the original intent was to create a sportscast, a global sportscast. I started in the AV. That was the goal right there. But let's take out a few words. Sports. Let's just take out that. I wanted a global podcast start, and I wanted my start to be in the AV. I wish then I was more comfortable with talking about deep things that I talk about now, because these are the conversations that I want to have with people. Like, I definitely like Joe Rogan. Huge inspiration for me. That dude literally gets to go in there and talk to whoever the fuck he wants about whatever the fuck he want, about whatever the fuck they want. And that's really all I want to do is have these type of conversations with people. I think it was maybe my ex who got me into like the Breakfast Club interviews and whatnot. Because when I would watch those, I would always watch DJ Envy. Because I was like, that nigga has like mixer board right in front of him. He has all this equipment in front of him. And I never really realized he was kind of producing the whole thing from right there. But all I really cared about was what these people said in their interviews. Like, I was a huge fan of J. Cole interviews, Nipsey interviews, Kendrick interviews. I liked a couple of Logics. I basically, that trend, that little like phase you go through when you just watch your favorite rappers or listen to your favorite musicians and you literally deep dive on them so far. You catch yourself watching an interview from some random ass YouTube channel that was trying to do interviews at the time because they were trying to like hop on that sway shit. So doing radio, podcasting, interviews, talking to guests in public, is my shit tweaking? Hold on, I can't tell. Autofocus continuation. Okay, so let me back it up a little bit. All right, you're good. All right, I'm tweaking. My fault, y'all. I just can't tell if this focus is going in and out or not because I can't really like keep an eye on my damn TV. 1 second, gang. This is what happens when you're a one-man band. You can't really control what you see or what the viewers are seeing. You could really just speak into the microphone and hope it fucking works. Let's see what we got going on here. Does it say I'm live out the gates? Of course not. Okay. Alrighty, let's see what we got here. Let's see. Is it going to say I'm going live already? Yes, sir. All right, cool. Okay, so this thing's not really far behind. You know what's cool? Is that I could actually like see myself and it has a little bit of delay. It's like, it's just crazy. This shit is insane. I'm literally my own viewer. All right. Well, now we know that we're not out of focus. Anyway, basically, just wanted to be able to do what Joe Rogan does because those are I love those conversations. Like I like literally just love learning. I guess in a not so conventional or normal, typical way because you have your textbooks and your lectures and your online courses and whatnot. You have the school's way of the school system's way of educating people. I just like people who love what they talk, who love what they do, to talk about what they do, because then it kind of just gets you excited, it gets you motivated to find the things that you love to do. Because if you like, if you, I feel like this is gonna go deep, but think about trauma and how people can, when somebody's going through a traumatic event, the last thing you want to do is tell that person, I understand. Because if you didn't go through, unless you went through exactly what they just went through when they went through it, you don't really understand what they're feeling right now. And that's the stupidest thing you can say. That's like the equivalent right there. It's like, wow, I lost my point. I love when that happens. Maybe I didn't have a point. Maybe that was the case. Damn. I talked about trauma and got lost in the trauma that I was thinking about. I guess you can compare trauma. This is what sucks about not having the ability to go back in time. Is that now I have to wait till I'm in editing to understand what I was gonna say and then chop it up later. But I literally lost my entire fucking point. I was comparing something to comparing drama, each other's trauma. Because like if you haven't went through it, you don't really get it. So what was that even about? It was about podcasting. There it is. If you haven't been in that person's shoes, how are you going to get as passionate about it as they are? Like, how are you going to be able to like talk about it as deeply as they do? So unless you walked that walk, how are you going to talk like you've like achieved? Like, what did J. Cole say in one of his songs? They be talking about money, but really they broke as hell type shit. Like, it was in 1985. He was basically getting at like, he said niggas talking woke, but they broke. Like, how you talking like you know these things, but look at the position that you're currently in. Why would I take your advice if the position that you're in is not something that I like? Like, how far have you really gone, and how much have you really experienced? If you're kind of in a similar position as me, like we're both broke, so like, come on now, like I need to be listening to people who aren't. That's not the best way to look at it. That's not the best way to look at it. But yeah, no, okay, yeah, fuck that. I lost my point, so we're gonna have to move on from that subject. I wanted to start a podcast, and then I never really understood what I wanted to talk about, because I guess that's even what's happening now. Is I'm still trying to have trouble trying to find that thing that I really, really like and stick to it, because I don't think it's possible. But these aren't going to be the type of conversations I have on camera with people. It's going to be, well, I want them to do what I'm doing right now. I want them to dump it all. I don't care if it's traumatic. Like, I think it's important to be able, like, I want to create that type of vibe where you can come to my podcast and talk about whatever the fuck you want to talk about, because I love those type of conversations, and I know that there's other people out there that love those type of conversations too. And then when you talk about what you love, I'm gonna get triggered and compelled to talk about what I love, and then we're both gonna be talking about how we love things, and I think that's a big win for the audience, because you're learning, you're seeing things, and if you watched this podcast religiously, you know that they're gonna talk about things that you're into, and maybe that can inspire you to jump on that. That's how podcasting worked for me. Only things that, like, if it wasn't a podcast that I was reoccurring, like if they weren't a reoccurring listen, I wasn't going out of my way to find like people's podcasts. I would literally type in a subject that I was curious about in Spotify, because Spotify, shout out to Spotify, y'all locked in with this shit. Literally, I just type in a subject that I want to talk about and put the word podcast next to it and find the first thing that I can. And then within the first 5 to 10 minutes, I can tell whether or not this person like actually loves it. Because if they're talking about it in like a monotone, I'm not going to sit here and talk about tones and shit like I know them. But if they're talking about it in like if you just do this and do that, that's the result you get. Like, if they're boring about it, like that, for one, you're losing viewers and no one's going to want to learn from you. You have the ability to teach right there. I think that's a huge impact that content creation has given us. And there are people who will abuse it, like the people who want to make online courses about bullshit. They do something for 1 year, and all of a sudden they make it a 1 year. They've been hot for 1 year, and all of a sudden they're making a podcast about how, or an online course about trying to sell you an online course about how to achieve the success that they've achieved. But like, the stakes are never going to be the same for everybody, unless this is some type of skill set that you're trying to sharpen. Shit, you better just look up at that. You better look into the internet provides us with a lot of free education. Learn how to use that first, and then acquire paid education, so that you can really you could really cut out the bullshit, cut out all that extra fat, and really get to the muscle. Because if you're only learning, if you're from the free shit, if you learn the fundamentals from the free shit, you'll know what you need. Let's talk about filmmaking. Let's just talk about recording videos. One of the first things they're going to teach you or tell you is that you need good lighting. That's one of the fundamentals. And then you learn about the fundamentals of lighting. Another thing you need to know is that you need to keep your camera settings. There's 3 camera settings that you need to know about: ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. And then you need to learn about each of those individually. So learn those fundamentals. And then if you need to seek further knowledge that you can't get anywhere else, and you need to learn this one thing, that's when you pay for it. You don't just think that this is going to be your return on investment and now's the time for you to take the charge. You should use that money and like kind of save it, right? And just like wait and hold off until you know what you need. Preparation is really important in those moments too. I guess I'm kind of going on a tangent about teaching and education. I've always had like a passion for it, because I'm always going to say this. I feel school didn't fail me. I failed school, but the education system wasn't all that. I'm not going to sit here and act like it was, but I'm not going to let that be the excuse or the reason on why I failed that shit and I didn't graduate on time. If you are for some reason tuning in on this later in the future, just know that I graduated high school a year and a half later than I was supposed to. I ditched my first 2 years of school basically. Like I was ditching classes 24/7, and I just simply would go to class and listen to music and not do anything else. And teachers eventually got tired of me and just left me alone in my little bubble and focused on the students who wanted to actually learn. I just wasn't ready to yet. I refer to myself as a late bloomer. Um, so ever since I've graduated high school, I've been like always kind of like, damn, I wish I can go back and give it my all. But I'm never gonna let that happen to me again. I'm never gonna let myself fall back that much, because that shit took it. It's like taking away moments of your life that you cannot get back. The only people who I know could relate to me are the people who couldn't go to prom in 2020 and couldn't graduate with their friends in 2020. That shit kind of hurts but when you watch your friends walk the stage without you, that hurts even more, because you're like, God damn, they were able to do the one thing I could not fucking do, and that was try for 4 years straight. A little bit of work every day for fucking 4 years, and I would have been able to get that achievement. Nice. It's not about what the diploma can do. It's about the feeling that creates. That feeling of success, achievement, accomplished, proud, celebrating with your friends, the people you went through this bullshit with. That right there is a moment you cannot get back. I watched it happen. I remember watching my sisters and I was like, damn, this is gonna be me one day, and it just never it just never was. So yeah, man, that was a hard pill to swallow. So when I realized that it wasn't about, like, the teachers didn't really want you, they could have gave a fuck about what you did after it. They wanted to create that moment for you. They wanted to help you achieve that moment, because when they achieve that moment, you're gonna remember it. You're gonna either remember it one way or two or another way, one way or another. You're gonna have a good memory. You're gonna have a bad memory. So there's that. And because not everyone's graduation could have been good, so I could always say that, but when I watched it happen, it was kind of like, damn, this sucks, but at the same time, it is what it is, and I just gotta graduate now. Let me turn my mic down because I see it peeking over there. Yeah, I'd much rather have this mic low, so I could raise it in post instead of having here peak after peak. So now I could see it going yellow, but not nearly as yellow as it was just going. So ever since I came to my senses after her graduating, it was like a fucking a sense of relief, but also like I could have went so much harder than that. Like I actually like these things. Like wow, I kind of want to go back. And then I did that. I went to college and then took two classes that I liked, English and business. Those are the only two classes in college I passed. Pretty cool. Um, I liked English because I can free write a little bit in there, and then in business it was just observing what's happening in the, like, what are the current events in the world, how are the stocks doing. But I really love the thing. I guess the thing I loved about it the most was, like, it wasn't even about the money. It was about being a part of something that people are going to remember. Because, like, you don't really, like, of course you're going to have to think about money when it comes down to this shit. You have to think about the financial shit, because if you don't, like, you're in it for the wrong reasons, right? But at the same time, like, I think that owning a business can, like, people can remember you from that. So how they remember you is important. And then I realized that in content creation, this is a business too. Linus Tech Tips, Logan Paul, and MKBHD were the three people who showed me. CJ's so cool as well. I know, like, that's like a weird thing. I didn't really like his content like that. It felt a little corny, but like that shit was a business for him. That shit was a business for Linus. That shit was a business for MKBHD. That shit was a business for Logan Paul. You can see what he's doing. Like, they use this content creation as a catapult to create more revenue for their business, whatever it may be, like drop shipping here and there. It turns more from a, like, it goes from having you just making vines and shit to applying yourself to this application and to see how far you can go in this application, and then seeing beyond the application. which whether it's Vine, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're popping on, it doesn't really matter. I think that it's important to see beyond it because eventually you're gonna have to adapt, and if you can't adapt, you're just gonna fall. Like you're just gonna stay in that little zone until people stop paying attention to it. So like Linus Tech Tips, MKBHD, Logan Paul have always been huge inspirations on me, and I've always wanted to see how far they can go. Because the further they go, the more obtainable I know these things are. I may just not be as funny as like a Logan Paul, but I'm kind of geeky like a Linus Tech Tips and MKBHD, but not nearly as educated as them in the tech field. So I'm hoping to get there because I'm very I'm not gonna say I'm tech savvy, but I'm fascinated by tech. So like an application like ChatGPT, I really want to see what that's about. It kind of reminds me of crypto, not because of like money and shit like that, but because in crypto there was like you had what did it start off with Bitcoin? That was like the first one that I think we knew, and then you heard of like Doggy Coin and Ethereum and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, 2 years later, no one's talking about it anymore. I think people seeing the success in it, and then they got oversaturated, and it's gonna make its return, of course, or it might always be here. Who knows? I can't predict the future, but I think that Chat GPT is gonna have competitors, and when the competitors rise, we're gonna really understand what Chat GPT is and how easy it is to recreate. Because at the end of the day, it's basically a bunch of consolidated data spit into an algorithm that allows you to just like that spits answers for you, whether they're right or whether they're wrong. They're just spitting answers that are relevant to your question. So the dumber the question, the dumber the answer. The smarter the question, the smarter the answer. That is one of the first things I recognize with ChatGPT is and it's kind of like it's kind of like a building block. You're kind of like your first question is not going to get the best answer, but then the more you build on that question, the better the answer becomes. So it genuinely does have a lot of perks in it. It helps me code a website, but and it helps me write stories. But it's one of those things where you're like, but can I really rely on this to get the job done? Hell no. Not yet, at least. Not as of now, because it hasn't been around enough. It hasn't consumed enough of the data. It's consumed a majority of it, but I think it needs to consume more of these questions. It needs to get a better understanding of how people are going to ask these questions, and just the more questions it gets asked, the better the data becomes, because the more questions we ask, the more data we fill. So I don't know. I think that in the future, it's going to be even more powerful than it is right now. And then we're going to see a lot of replicas and people doing the same thing. Maybe there were people doing it before ChatGPT. We just didn't know it yet. But let's be honest. The minute ChatGPT hit the fucking stage, we were all like, all the tech people were like, is it really the shit or not? So I'm really excited to see what ChatGPT becomes. But also like love it for educational purposes because you can cheat your ass off. You could really force it. But at the same time, like if you're trying to like build a skill, you could go there for that. So for coding and me, like it genuinely like it broke down HTML concepts, JavaScript, and CSS for me. Although it didn't give me direct information and like, answers that I needed or that I could have found anywhere else, it was good having a tutor that was a little bit smarter than you. Because with a tutor, sometimes you don't even have to ask the question. They just know when to help you. With AI, you have to ask the question and hope to God you know the terminology of the subject that you're talking about. Because if you don't know the terminology, you're going to ask a stupid question. And if you ask a stupid question, you're going to get a stupid result. And the result's never going to help you. And you're just going to get stuck in this loop until you ask a better educated question. When you first start coding, if any of you are familiar with the Odin project, there's a part in there that because if you heard of Odin project, you know what Stack Overflow is for sure. Stack Overflow is basically where ChatGPT gets a lot of its information from. Same thing for GitHub. Stack Overflow is simply a thread of questions. How do I do this? and a bunch of people respond to that question with answers on how to do that. So the dumber the question, the dumber the answer. And in Odin Project, there was a person who had a literal blog about how to ask the proper question. And when I seen that, I was like, you should just be able to ask. No, because if I ask the question, how do I make this button bigger? Well, can we get some more context? Do you want to make it wider? Do you want to make it longer or taller? Do you want to make the whole entire thing bigger like this? How big do you want it? Now we're asking questions. You need to present the data to them so that no questions are asked, only answers are given. You don't want anybody to look at your question and ask another question. That's a fucking sub-thread. You want answers only. So you need to create an answer. You need to create a question that generates answers. Easy answers at that. So if you don't know what you're talking about, you should probably YouTube it, get the vocabulary down, then type in your answer, and then you'll thank me later, because that ChatGPT is a powerful tool, but it's only as powerful as the person who's using it. So it's like programming, kind of. It's like the code's only going to be as smart as the person who wrote the shit. So yeah, that's what I've noticed about ChatGPT. So I guess that kind of brings me into my next point about current interests, because ChatGPT has my full attention. And I'm telling you, that thing's helped me a lot. Because when I'm in that like learning environment, I can use ChatGPT as a resource. It was just YouTube before, and I wouldn't even go to Stack Overflow because I never got the answer that I was looking for, which basically just means that I wasn't trying hard enough to find the answer. It used to just be W3 Schools, I think it was called, and basically that was it. That and YouTube. There was this dude named Kevin Pollard, I believe. He was the CSS guy. He literally only talked about CSS, which is like really all I needed at the time. So it was literally just going back and forth between those two things, and then I found ChatGPT, and I was like, huh, wow. I get answers back better if I ask better questions. So it kind of makes you ask better questions now, so you get the hang of it. So it's awesome. Like, I love using it a lot. But I guess that kind of feeds into where it got me there, and that was coding. Around 2022, late 2021, I had interest in it because we had hired a software developer at my job, and I was like, this seems pretty cool. Like, I'd like to like dive in on this a little bit. Although I couldn't keep up nearly at all. Like, people are gonna be like, "Oh, you didn't try hard enough." No, I know when I can't keep up, and I don't want to hold anybody back. So I just kind of did my own thing. Because I was literally being taught how to write code at work. It just didn't really feel like it was helping. Like, I did more coding outside of work than coding inside of work, because we had to code things like for this thing that I didn't really know what to build. When I have control over the project, I build better things. Like, when it's in my possession, and when I'm liable and reliable, when I have to rely on my own self, because like, I don't know, I don't want, like, when I'm working with a team, my biggest fear is to let somebody down. So I don't want to work with a team in code until I know that my skills are worth it. I don't know if that makes sense. But software development is definitely one of my biggest interests at the moment, because the idea of being able to build software for film groups and companies is like, I'm like to me, that's where the real money is, because you're like automating things for people and making things easier for them, like Monday.com, ClickUp, Storyblocks. I'm thinking of softwares as services. There's so many of them. Like, you can't even, like, just for filmmakers in general. And then you have applications like OBS, Adobe Audition, the entire Creative Cloud, Premiere Pro, After Effects. This is all software that was developed by developers and coders. Started with somebody's idea, programming it. That's really where my focus kind of shifted to after filmmaking. Because after I did my podcasts and my interviews and my music videos, after the music videos, I was like, okay, this kind of isn't really for me. Unfortunately, I had to do 5 of them to find that out. I didn't like being the videographer. I like telling the videographer what to do. or not even what to do. I like letting the videographer do their thing and then dealing with it in post. Um, I guess I'm not a huge fan of being on set, but if I had to, I would be. Um, so as the attention kind of started shifting, I like looked at software development. Like Monday.com really had me because I was like, well, they're really just offering like a little software that can potentially help a film group, but there's still that learning curve to it where that film group has to learn how to use this application in order to get the best out of it. And then that's when it hit me. Are any of these applications ever going to be able to create a software that's generalized for any job, any film group, any scenario? There's a lot of limitation there if you ask me. Let's use I can't generalize a lot of the softwares that I use because nobody else uses them. Google Drive. The Google Drive. You use Google, right, to search things up, to go to your mail. You use Gmail potentially, right? Did you know that there was a Google Drive? Majority of you probably did. Some of you probably didn't. The Google Drive is basically storage. You know how like when you want to upload photos to you want to take a photo and it tells you that you ran out of cloud storage or iCloud storage, and you're like, I ran out of storage. You check your storage, there's 50 gig left, but it's talking about the iCloud storage because it wants you to upload your photos in the background to the iCloud so that you can access these photos from whatever device you're on, whether it's your MacBook, your iPhone, your Apple Watch, or your iPad. Doesn't really matter. It wants you to be able to access these things at the same time always. The Google Drive offers the same exact thing, but it doesn't matter what phone or computer you have. You have a MacBook, you have a Windows. You can access the files from two different locations at the same time without affecting each other unless somebody deletes the shit. So what they're offering you is the ability to access files at any time, anywhere, from any device, so long as you have an internet connection. Now that right there is generalized for the public. That right there is something that anybody can use, but the question is, would a doctor find use in that? What the fuck is a doctor going to use the Google Drive for? They'll probably use a Google spreadsheet or the Google Docs. See, now that's more of a general thing to do, but there's still certain limitations on a lot of these applications, which is what got me into like, I don't want to like I want to work for companies, but if I'm going to build things, like that's when you have to know your niche. You have to know who you want to sell to. And I don't want to, I've always been a huge advocate of, I don't want to sell you something that you don't need. Like, I don't want to sell bullshit ass products. I used to make these NFC cards. I'm sure some of you remember that. And everybody would look at me like a genius. They'd be like, oh my God, that's next up. But the more I learned about the product, the more I realized that it wasn't next up for what I thought it was. It wasn't until I had a friend named Daniel. I hate when people are smarter than me. I told him about the idea because there was a brand named Popple that was making the exact same cards, but they were a whole brand. Like they were they were with the shits. We were making money off of them basically. Like they were our clients for our job. Like this wasn't even no like side hustle shit. This is me working for a company and realizing that this shit's beyond me. I could acquire the same exact thing, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if I'm equipped with those skills just yet. But this is when this is when the card idea died to me. He was like, just skip a step. The point of the card was you pull out this card, you tap it to the back of somebody's phone. Reminder, iPhone 11s and higher. You tap it to the back of the phone and it directs them to this link that they can click on. So like when you get a push notification, you can click that push notification and it takes you to the app. Same exact effect with this card. So if you're marketing something, it's easy to just be like, hey, yo, check this out. Boop. Now you just created a wow effect. Huge thing for marketing. You want people to look at your product and be like, that's how you create memories. First thing that I learned from making those cards, though. I got a lot of those. A lot of like, hey, who is this guy? Like, I'm telling you, I thought that I was a genius. That they made me feel like I was a genius until Daniel said, skip a step. And I was like, that's facts. That's facts. Because, like, imagine if I just tapped my phone to the back of your phone. That would be fucking sicker. That's when I was like, damn, Motherfucker had a great idea. But at the same time, it's like Apple kind of wants you to do that. They're like, yeah. Keep giving us ideas. Keep giving us ideas. I think it's a great idea to just be able to do that. But then you think about it in retrospect, like still other ways of doing it. Nonetheless, good product, very good product. But I've seen that there's better ways of accomplishing the same thing. Or there's other ways of being able to accomplish the same thing. Heads up, if anybody you want to take that NFC route, there's a bunch of drop shipping applications, or there's a bunch of like manufacturers that sell them for very, very cheap, discounted prices that you could sell them individually for and make your profit back. Here's one of the things that I would suggest though. If you're gonna look for people with business, if you're gonna look for people, head to Instagram and TikTok and look for people with links in their bios. Anybody with the link in their bio, most likely has something to sell. If you could just look for all those links, you could sell them a product. So yeah, I never really took off with that idea, but that's how I went about it when I was getting into it. So that was a cool thing to learn. But because I haven't did shit with that, fuck all that. I made $400 off those fucking cards. $25 purchase, by the way. $400. You do the math. And there were, I think I had 250 cards total. So whether I made my profit back or not, that's up for you guys' discretion. I made $400 off that fucking shit. So like there was definitely potential in it. Then I seen a company do the exact same thing that I was doing, and we made ads for them. And then I realized that in order to sell the product at that scale, I need to put money in different things. And then I started working for a startup, and I lost my attention for selling things because I was already making money. So there was no need for me to grind so hard. So that's genuinely why I stopped selling them. One second, let me fix my microphone. Alrighty, there we go. Then that's when I realized that the idea was still like there. I'm like, okay, I don't understand software enough to know how to program these things myself. Software, programming, helping creators create, helping people, giving people what they need. Software development, right? Because all these things are kind of like tied in with each other. It all revolves around a computer. It all revolves around software, kind of, because like you need software to like program the hardware, right? Sometimes. I don't even think that's the case a lot of the times, but it helps, right? I don't think you were able to build software without hardware, though. So I think hardware always comes first. It's always important to think about the hardware, because then you need to know. Anyway, I think that software, hardware were the two things that like my two interests, and filmmaking happened to be the first, like, or content creation, I would say, happened to be the first equipment I got my hands on. So like when I first got into this game, the three file formats the two files I knew about were JPEG and PNG. I didn't know the difference between MOV and MP3 or MP4. Those were like, oh man, I remember being in the RV like, why the fuck is this video not playing on my phone, bro? Because that shit was probably in like an MOV format that wasn't compatible with the iPhone at the time. Like, I know MOV, MKV, FLV, MP3, MP4, Wave, PNG, SVG, JPEG, JPEG. There's so many file formats and containers out there that I know now. HEIC, fucking, oh my god, BRAW. These are literally file extensions I'm naming off. Like I understand these. CR3, AR3. Yeah, I think it's ARW for Sony. Yeah, man, I'm a fucking geek, but I understand so much more about technology than I did when I was first got into it. So it's like another like reminder. Okay, I'm heading into like the right direction, right? That's a cool thing. And like I said, helping creators create has always been the goal. So software development kind of was always in the back of my head, but I was always too scared to learn how to code. So I'm going to eat up all this free education while I can. And then when it's time to look for some coaching, I'm going to look for some coaching because I genuinely want to be able to build good software. Like, I don't want to just build a fucking internet site. You know, I want to build something that's usable and sellable. I want to be able to create SaaSes for people. But obviously that's not a one-man thing. You need a team of developers to help you do that. So the money comes first in that sense. So those are some of my current interests. Making podcasts is always going to be an interest because me rambling into a microphone on the internet is going to be a very, 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 very common occurrence. Hopefully that builds an audience. So yeah, those are some of the current interests that I'm currently into right now, and I left my notebook over there because now we're gonna go from techie stuff to more mental, mental things. So I guess in this case, I'll say be the viewer or the audience. So, like, I want to be able to have conversations with software developers who achieved very high things so that people who want to be software developers can listen to my podcast and learn a lot from it. Because at the end of the day, I think that that's what's most important to me is to educate people with this fucking camera and this fucking microphone. And if I'm not going to be the one to educate these motherfuckers, then I'm going to record content and podcasts for people who can educate these motherfuckers. Like, I have the equipment to accomplish these things. I just want to find out who's actually with the shits and who wants to do it. Like, I don't want to create podcasts for fucking no reason. I would like to create some entertaining ones, but I'm a boring dude. I'll be lucky if people come and tune into my podcasts. I want to be able to make podcasts for people who actually are entertaining and funnier than I am, because I want to be able to laugh while I'm doing the producing, but also thinking in the back of my head like, damn, I can't wait to get this shit into editing because damn, clip right there. I want to have control over my shit, and I need to understand my software and know which software I actually need and don't need. I want to be able to know how to make API calls. I want to be able to know how to bring these applications into working with each other so that I can always create the working environment that I need to get this job done efficiently and effectively. That's really all we look for at the end of the day, right? So I think that when with building an audience, that I don't think that's ever been easy. I think creating content every single day is actually pretty difficult because it's like no matter what, there's still a lot of work that goes into it, even if you're just pressing the start and record, the start and stop button. See, it's not the same case for me because I didn't complicate my whole process. See, I got the fucking two lights that I gotta bring this one out. That one's stationary. I gotta pull out the tripod, place the camera on there, throw the fucking thing in there, start the recordings and whatnot. It's fun when it's all set up already, but then when you have to break it all down on an empty stomach, you're like, yeah, I'd much rather not do that right now. So it makes it a bitch to even edit, because now that you're done setting up, you think you're done for the day. I want to make content for people who want to learn things, but also are kind of just bored and like, okay, this guy's talking about some neat things. I want to have some fun content, some nerdy content. Like, I don't want there to be a grip on what I'm talking about. I want to be able to talk about whatever the fuck. And people are going to judge, obviously. I don't give a shit about the judgment. I care about people who are like, oh, you need to stay in your niche. What if my niche is generalized, my nigga? Like, there's always rules to this shit, right? Until somebody does it differently. And then that rule that was suddenly applied has new rules that go around it because that rule probably should have never been applied. You should have never embedded that mentality into a young up-and-comer's head because that could limit them potentially, which is another thing I think about education, is about the people who have the ability, who have the platform to teach and use it to teach, but sometimes don't take it that seriously, can really limit people's expectations for what they want to do. Because then I can come into your show seeking great things, and then I'm getting average ass shit because you're not trying that hard to educate me. You're losing me as a viewer, and you are kind of making me lose interest in this thing that I like. So, like I said, I just want to have conversations with people who love what they fucking talk about. That's what I want this podcast to consist of in the future. And then Sweezy Productions, that is literally just for the creators. That's for the art. That's for the artistic shit, bro. That's where the heart comes out. Eyeris, it comes out over here too, but we could definitely switch the topic into some other shit. Like, it could go from one thing to another. The heart gets spilled over here too, but I guess this is more worried about the... Okay, I'm at a lot. I think the Sweezy Productions, if you look at my content on there, it's only interviews, and the first two are videos of me when I first started my YouTube channel. And then I focused on interviewing people. So like, I don't know. I want this one to be more me, Sweezy Productions to be more conversations and educational, artsy. I want to be able to have. So like, think of Vogue, not Vogue, Vanity Fair. They're the best ones to do the interviews. I love their interviews. They feel so classy and they have these themes to them. Those are the type of things that I want to create. Like classy interviews. Make people feel like special and shit like that. I like the idea of that. But then I realized that like I'd have to be like the one to host that shit 24/7. So I realized that a team's gonna have to get built over there, and I don't want to put my face on it because I don't want to distort the image of what I'm trying to get over there. That's like more high class vibe shit. I don't know. Point is that's I'm so indecisive. I'm like, should Eyeris be that or should Sweezy Productions be that? You should just make the content, bruh. I'm getting hungry, so I'm probably gonna have to end this one short because I'm gonna end up rambling. Yep, Kyrie went to the Mavs. That's gonna be a crazy thing to see. Hopefully, fuck that. They're gonna be a great team to play with in 2K. All right, family. Grateful for their asses. Although sometimes it's hard to be. I think that without family, this life is gonna be a lot less bearable. And it doesn't matter who you call family. Family is family. Like, it doesn't have to be blood. It doesn't have to be the people who raised you. The people that you can call when shit gets thick. Thick, thick, thick. Thin, thin, thin. When you can call them at any given time and they pick up the phone and they're there for you when you need them. That's family. Those are the people you need in your life. Those are the people who make you feel better. And I think that having a supporting family is like really fucking important for whatever it is you want to do. That's why I think like a lot of these football players, you see a lot of their family in these when they get drafted, because like they only want the people who were there for them on the way up to be there for them when they make it. And I've always loved watching that, like seeing those kids. I can't even call them kids, bro. They're older than me at this point. Seeing them get the reward and the result that they've been aiming for years is so rewarding as a fan, because you're like, damn, like it does happen. Dreams do come true. Doesn't matter if you're 5, doesn't matter if you're 45, bro. That's still gonna be like a good feeling to see. And you just see how happy the family is around them. That right there shows you genuine shit. Like that's real. That's real. Movies can mimic it. They can't create that actual feeling though of watching somebody get drafted into the NFL, NBA, MLB, whatever the sport may be, and just watching the sheer celebration from the entire family. Man, that shit right there is a moment that I can't wait to create with myself and my family and whatever it is I may be. Like, I just want to find success and give my family something to be proud of, and hopefully that success can create success for them as well, because I guess overall for me that's always been one of my goals, is to put my family on, because honest to God I just feel like we deserve it. My mom's done everything she could for us, and I don't care if my sister don't like it or not. My mom does everything she can for us, and without her we aren't gonna be nearly as happy as we are now, because we're gonna have so much pressure on our shoulders. We're gonna actually have to like work with each other and try with each other and try to hash things out. Shit's not gonna be fun. So yeah, I'm just grateful for my mama, man. She is the like light in the dark when shit gets bad. And without her, I don't think that I am navigating through this life as easily personally. She ties it all together for me. So I'm just really grateful to be able to have such a strong supporting mother in my life. And same thing for my brother, same thing for my sister. Honestly, for my brother, I'm happy that he found a wife that could like contain the nigga. My brother is a loose cannon. If you know my brother, you know he's a loose cannon. I love that man to death. Don't get me wrong, but he's a loose cannon. So the fact that she could actually like deal with that is a respect that I'll always have, because I know he's made things difficult for me. I made things difficult for him. Vice versa for the two of them. And she shows me what I would look for in a wife. It's like, that right there is a fucking writer, because I can't put up with that motherfucker, man. So the fact that you can, shout out to you. And then they blessed me with my little niece. So, and there's another one coming on the way. I I realized today when helping my brother mount his TV on how patient you have to be with children, because Nevaeh was literally, her name is Nevaeh, my god niece. I'm the godfather and the uncle. She was calling my name. She was like, Uncle Geico. She was like trying to get me to like look at her Connect Sand because she did something cool. As I have a 75-inch TV in my fucking hand, I'm like, homegirl, what you want from me? But at first I'm like trying to get like, I'm like thinking about how I want to approach the situation. I'm like, do I just ignore her? I was like, oh wait, she doesn't have to know that I'm looking. So I just like took a look back and I was like, nice. I was like, whoa, look at that. And I was just like, okay, see, it's a small thing. And she still reacted to it. And it gave me baby fever. Because I was like, this ain't that hard. But like, and you think about it, you're like, oh no. This is like a glimpse of what they have to deal with. So the fact that there's two of them, I really shout out to that too. Because imagine having to do that shit by yourself. Whew. Whew. The shout out to the strong, to the independent fathers out there holding it down. Shout out to y'all. But the mamas, single mamas, doing it all by themselves, having to rely on their mamas and their pops and their brothers and their sisters to help raise their kid is pressure that I have never really looked into until now. Because I think that I have pressure in this life until I take a look at theirs and I'm like, fuck, that's pressure. Because it is your responsibility to take care of 18 years by yourself. And if anything happens to that kid, you're going to feel ultimately responsible and guilty for it. That's a lot of fucking pressure. Damn. Yeah, maybe I don't want kids, but seeing my brother and his wife raise theirs shows me how patient you have to be, and kind of teaches me how to, like, you got to put your foot down with kids. It's not nice. I hate being mean to my niece. Like, I hate being stern with her. Like, hey, no. Because sometimes you're just like, okay, they'll do it. But then sometimes they're not there, and you're like, okay, she's doing bad shit, and I got to stop her. Stop doing that. And then they give you the puppy eyes, and you're like, don't cry. Okay, you cry. I'm going to cry. And we don't want to cry. So let's just let's just please accept the fate that we just created and continue with the punishment of you just standing in the corner for 5 minutes so that you can calm down. No? Okay, let's go get some fucking ice cream. Psych, no. Sit your ass in that fucking corner. I'm kidding. I don't even know if I would be a good dad or not, but I'm terrified of being a dad. Like, petrified of being a father. Because it's not only about, like, raising the kid and shit like that. It's more about my mental health rubbing off on them. Am I mentally stable enough to even do that? And I don't even think I am, bro. Like, I am so inconsistent. That'll be the biggest flaw they point out if they ever talk shit about me at work. It's gonna be my inconsistency. I don't want to be inconsistent as a parent, so I gotta work those kinks out now. And I'm scared that by the time I'm gonna work those kinks out, it's not even gonna be worth having a kid because I'm gonna be 65. So, like, I don't know, man. I've always been scared of that. I gotta get to it first. And then I guess I want to be financially, emotionally, mentally stable before I'm even ready to take on any of those things. Because until I'm that, I don't know if I'm ever going to be ready. So, yeah. That was some deep shit. Some randomly deep shit. And that was basically, like, kind of covers it. I want to say that kids are nice, but I got to build this thing first. And I've been saying it for years. But back what I said in the last episode, I said that just because I didn't get the results that I wanted yet, doesn't mean that I haven't, like, learned or, like, gained anything out of this. Like, I've learned so fucking much from just trying to create content, bruh. Just trying to create content, I have learned so fucking much, and I haven't even done anything with it. What happens when I do something with it? Imagine how big those lessons are going to be then. Like, honest to God, I'm grateful that I haven't done shit with it yet, because I still have the flexibility to do whatever I want until I find something that I have to stick to. I don't know. I'm just a guy talking into a camera, hoping to get somebody's attention, and they take me seriously and they hear me out and actually respect what I have to say, and it causes them to want to tune in again and again until it inspires them to do it themselves. So inspiring people always going to be a feeling that I like to create, but also helping creators create is a skill that I feel like I have to obtain in order to build the money, because there's this dude named Mayor, and he does affiliate marketing. My bosses look up to him in certain things. So he said, you don't always have to like what you do. In fact, Cody was one of the first ones to tell me that. My boss, the CEO of my company, was the first one to tell me that. He was like, dude, you think I like making fucking advertisements? And I was like, no, but you should. Like, you should be passionate about what you do. But, like, as I'm getting older, I'm like, well, when it comes to that moolah, you just got to be good at it. You just got to be good at it. You don't got to like it. You just got to be good at it. So that's when it hits you. You're like, fuck it. Just find the thing that you can be good at and apply yourself to that so that you can have a skill that makes money. So no matter what, job or no job, you always have financial income, because all you got to do is find a way to use that skill and make money off of it. Skill sets are really important. So find the ones that can milk the most money, which is why they always tell you to look into that engineering, get a government job. But overall, here's a good example. What's the skill in delivering pizzas? You become a more efficient driver. You can use that skill in the future, but the likelihood of people becoming professional drivers is slim, because that's not the initial reason you go to work at a fucking pizza place. You go there to make money, but you're really not building a distinct skill unless you had the intent to go there to learn management or business, But if you build a skill that a lot of companies need, because not every company needs a delivery driver. You know what every company fucking needs? Engineering and software. Hardware. Machines. They need these things to run their companies. Not run their companies, or to make tasks in their companies a lot easier. They need these things. So they tell you, become an engineer. Do stuff like that, because you always need a welder. Build these skills, because these skills can be pasted across different companies no matter what. The fundamentals still stay the same. Do you know how to weld? Good. You know how to do this type of metal and this type of metal? Yes, cool. We have this one, so it might be a bit of a learning curve, but it's kind of similar to that one, so it shouldn't be too hard to understand within a 3-month span. Got it. Because you know welding, you can apply to a majority of the jobs in America. Not a majority, a lot of jobs in America. So the likelihood of you getting hired to do welding is increased. So that all started from building the skill to learn how to weld. You can now have a higher chance of acquiring a job in that field, because the field is pretty big. So it's like, really, whatever that skill is, as long as it's applicable to multiple companies, doesn't matter if you like it or not, do it. But the ones who like to find skills in entertainment often have like the toughest challenges, right? Because if you think about it, it's kind of easier to find a skill that you don't like and make money off of it than it is to find a skill that you do like and make money off of it. Because now you don't want to give up on it. Now, it's not that it's still not easy, because it's still difficult to acquire and do, but now you really get tested to see how much you love it. Are you going to do it on your hard days? Are you going to do it on the tough days? Are you going to do it after deaths? Are you going to do it after trauma? Are you going to do it when you can't? How much do you love this? True tests. That's when the shit really gets difficult. And those are the people I want to have conversations with. I want to work with the people who understand the idea of, I don't love this, but I have to do it to get the money into my bank account. I only want to do that until I no longer have to. And I wish I understood that at a younger age, but unfortunately didn't grow up that way. So I'm a little behind. Like I said earlier in this podcast, I'm a late bloomer. So I guess that's one thing that I'm grateful for, is because I know that I may not get it right now, and when everybody else is getting it, but I know for a fact my time's going to come. All I got to do is stay focused and dedicated towards this vision that I have for myself. Doesn't matter the skin tone, doesn't matter the circumstance. What matters is the resilience, the faith, and the strength to push through it when times get tough. Is the vision still the same? Does the finish line look the same? Yes. Okay, then why the fuck am I not going towards it? So yeah, if there's one thing that I'm going to end this off, boy, with gratitude, is being optimistic to learning. I used to fucking hate it. I used to hate the idea of going to school. Now, I really fucking wish I seen the power and the beauty in it, because there's a lot of fucking information I missed out on that could have been beneficial to me. And had I learned it at a younger age, imagine had I kept going from a younger age to now, on how much more intelligent I would be with just software development in general. I wish I found software development and hardware engineering, or just engineering and mechanical engineering in general. I wish I found those two things at a young age and just stuck with that, because right now, like, I wouldn't have to worry about money, but all I would really have to worry about is, like, I don't even know, man. I don't even know, but money wouldn't be one of them, because I learned that skill at such a young age. I'm 23 now. If I started when I was 13, I'd have 10 years experience. Likelihood of that happening is slim, obviously, because what 13-year-olds are going to want to do software development right out the gates and stick with it? It's rare, but it happens. So there's that. But if there's one thing that I'm grateful for, is that I am very optimistic with learning. I don't care who you are, how old you are, and what you've done. If you got something to say and you're passionate about what you're saying, you got something to teach. And I am an open ear. So whatever you fucking like to talk about, and if you like what I'm talking about right now, Slack a nigga, DM a nigga, text a nigga. Let me know what you like and what you want to talk about. That's going to help me out so much more than you think, because now I can structure my shows around you and just fucking let you talk for me, and then ask questions that I think the audience would want to hear. So yeah, if you don't know what this podcast is about, hopefully this podcast, this episode helps you gain some clarity on it, because it definitely helped me gain some. So I got to end this thing pretty shortly. I'm fucking starving, and I'm about to go tear down some food. So I'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you for tuning into the third episode of the year, and we'll see how far this one goes this time. Thank you.